esports included in the Olympics. And joining me today is a homegrown professional fighting games player. He was the winner of Ultra Street Fighter 4 at DreamHack Winter 2015 and is currently on Team Razer. And Razer has offered him a sponsorship deal, a contract, and a salary to play full-time in its esports team. So, Razer Xian, that's your gaming name?
Yes, that's actually my gaming name. So I'm actually a professional fighting game player in Singapore. I play mainly Street Fighter 5. That's what I do for a living. And I'm sponsored by Razer, Secret Lab, Monster, Twitch, and Singtel.
And how long have you been doing this for a living?
I've been doing this since end of 2013, so it's about 7 years from now.
Okay, but you've been gaming all your life as far as you remember, or did gaming come later?
Gaming actually since 6 years old.
Okay, so pretty much.
Pretty much, yes.
What were you playing then?
I only go to arcades and I like fighting games a lot, so I play mostly all kinds of fighting games. Any kind of fighting games actually kind of attracts me.
Okay, so when did the idea of becoming a professional gamer come to you?
Actually, I've never thought of becoming a professional gamer because it doesn't exist in Singapore until like recent years. You know, this is not a career. It actually doesn't exist when when I started to become a professional player. Like Singapore doesn't has anyone, like Ice from Dota is probably the closest one, but there isn't really anyone that holds the title like, a pro gamer in Singapore.
So when and how did you get into it?
So in 2013, when I was won the world championship, I was looking for sponsors, and stuff, and I was really lucky. And Razer, the CEO, actually they kind of noticed about my championship because of the news, and they started to sponsor me by giving me a salary, hotel, and traveling, and that's where I really consider myself as a pro gamer.
Okay.
So I really appreciate that.
And all you need to do is play lots of games.
Yes, and there's a lot more than being a pro gamer right now than just playing games.
Yeah.
You do streaming as well, like you do interviews, you do social media, you create content, it's a lot more than that in this generation compared to maybe the past.
Creating what sort of content? Like as in you write or review games, things like that?
No, you do streaming, like you interact with your fans, and I do cross-counter Asia as well, like YouTube content, where we just sit down and do a talk show, with other guests about fighting games, there's a lot of different kind of things that you can do, but it's just more like for exposure so that you're not only just a competitor, but of course you can venture anything that's regards to gaming when you're pro gaming.
Okay, so in any way that helps you develop your craft, in
Yes.
a sense, right?
Yep.
And, esports experts say that athletes, like yourself, need more sort of psychological support to help with pressures that come with the competition. So help us understand what sort of pressures do you face as a professional athlete?
I think a lot of people don't understand how professional gamers actually, the amount of pressure that professional gamer actually face, because it's actually a job that it didn't have the rules written out to say that you have to keep winning. But if you keep losing, like in like a year, you actually be, forgotten by the fans or like people, people will start to not notice you anymore, you get washed out, So there's no technical rules that you have to keep winning from the sponsors or anyone, but if you don't win, eventually you'll be gone from this. So this creates a big amount of pressure, because most jobs actually doesn't have this requirement where you have to win. Most jobs actually requires you to get the job done rather than to win, So it's a different kind of pressure, I feel.
Right, as an athlete, it's much more competitive. Yeah. So do you need to specialize in a particular game and just get better and better at it, or do you a few games and you compete in those games only?
It kind of depends. Like people who play like LOL, Dota, Dota 2, they just specialize in their own games. Sometimes they jump around into different games. But for fighting games, right now we just play the most popular one, right. The one that have the most prize money, But from time to time, if a bigger fighting game comes out, we'll we have to play popular fighting games because it's still less of a smaller market compared to like LOL and Dota. But I think for bigger games or most of the PC games, you actually don't have to play other games. One game is more than enough. Just because of the amount of prize money, and they retire at like 20, 22 years old.
Oh my, really?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, yes.
And when you're talking about, so is this how it happens? Like at least someone scouts out what is the hottest game at the moment, fighting game that's doing the scene, the circuits, competitions and whatever. And then you go into it, you train in it, you try to excel in it, and then you go for competitions.
Not really. Actually, most of the popular fighting games are already being recognized. Like for fighting games, Street Fighter is the biggest one. Right. And for like, PC games, Dota 2, League of Legends is like the biggest one, So I would say that the prize money kind of really determines if it's the biggest one. Because like Fortnite has a really 100 million prize money, and that is definitely one of the biggest. No matter you just can't neglect it when the amount of prize money is so huge.
Yeah, and it's very tough because to get great at these things, you need practice, and practice requires time, and it's very difficult to pull yourself away from practice. So what do you do with things like sleep and social life and eating and going out?
I do think there's still a lot of time, for us to have social life because it's more healthy, like for gamers now, to have to exercise, to go to the gym, to not spend all the hours, just practicing on the game.
Is that a requirement?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a requirement, but it's something that makes you concentrate better in the tournament because you can play 16 hours a day, but it may not be as helpful because you just burn yourself out. Your mental condition is not really there, and it usually backfire, so now the meta for like most pro gamers, like they go to gym, they try to build a healthy lifestyle, they watch videos, they spread out, what is, it's actually kind of similar to what sports athletes are already doing.
But sports athletes do get support, right? Like from coaches and therapists and psychologists and things like that. So what's it like for an e-athlete? Well, we'll find out as we continue to speak with homegrown professional fighting games player Razor Xian after we check on traffic. And traffic is heavy along Orchard Road. This is towards Bras Basah Road between Grange Road and Buyong Road. It's 19 minutes past 8 on Nightlife tonight. Esports experts calling for more psychological support to help athletes deal with the pressures that come with competition. That's according to an ongoing study commissioned by the International Olympic Committee's research arm. And Razor Xian from Team Razor is here to give us an insider view of the industry. So, regular sports athletes get support, like trainers, therapists, psychologists, and other people, basically helping them to develop both mentally and physically for their game. Do you get any of that?
We don't have that right yet, at least not for what I'm doing, because I'm playing fighting game. Fighting games are still the niche market compared to other games. It's the smallest one, but it's still really big.
So if you could have some sort of support, what support would you like?
There can be many different kind, but it really depends because as a pro gamer ourselves, we actually may not really know what is the best support that we could have. Like a professional could give us the best advice on what support we really need, because we do feel lost from time to time and we can't really identify what is the real problem, so I think I'm not experienced enough to say about this yet.
Okay. And the esports industry is keen to be included in the Olympics, but the Olympics Committee has said it isn't ready to support games that aren't based on traditional sports like basketball and soccer and things like that. So some concerns have been raised over its exposure to violence. What are your thoughts on that?
I think fighting games has the last thing to do with violence. Like everyone that I know from fighting games is from my perspective, it's the very, very friendly. Like, I think if you don't call them nerds, it's really a very big compliment. Like, violence is the last thing that you can actually associate with. It's just that because people think that fighting games is equal to fighting, it just have the same word in it, but it's actually the complete opposite. A lot of people are just people who play games at home, like a lot of them are people who are nerds, but a lot of them are people who socialize, who can talk very well, that I think violence is definitely not the thing.
And violence actually is in all of us, but most of us thankfully don't act it out. And as gamers, you can actually vent all of your frustrations in a harmless way.
Yeah, exactly. This is why I feel actually gamers are actually more, pleasant because they get to vent it out in the game, whereas a lot of people don't have a place to vent out, the frustration.
And you're playing against, and with buddies as well. And how has the esports industry changed since you first started competing?
I think the esports industry has changed a lot in a lot of different kind of ways because like I play fighting games. Esports has a lot of different sessions. It's just like basketball, soccer, hockey, like sports. There's a lot of different. Esports is very big. So for fighting games, the prize money, I would say, is one of the things that changed the most. When I won the World Championship in 2013, it was only 5,700 USD. And right now, prize money is millions, So it's definitely a big change.
And you're a professional Street Fighter e-gamer, which sounds like a dream job for many gamers. Are your family and friends supportive of your career?
I think my family is a kind of family that is a little bit special. They just let me do what I want. As long as I don't do any bad things, they allow me to explore, like what I like, my career, They're just people who believes that, an elephant could not climb a tree. So he's not someone that would judge me by what I do. If I can't study, they will let me go freely to do what I want. Mm-hmm. It was weird at the start because I went to gaming. It doesn't sound like there's a future at the start, especially during the times when I was trying to do this industry. But they still just let me do freely as long as I'm happy and I don't do anything that get any bad stuff. They are actually, so I would say they're really very supportive of my career.
Yeah, and your girlfriend must be very supportive, more supportive in fact, because she's also a gamer.
Yes, my girlfriend is actually a gamer as well, and she herself is a freelance tattoo artist. She owns her own tattoo studio. Okay. So we are both things that do what we like. We didn't went through the normal path, like a lot of people went through. So it's definitely, we have the same channel, so it's very easy to communicate.
Yeah. And I know quite a few gaming couples who met online and then got together, got married, things like that as well. Is it a common thing or is it just a...
I'm not sure about gaming online, and getting married. I do heard a lot of those stories, but for me, I met my girlfriend in the arcades. So we actually met outside, physically, yeah. So it's a different kind of, I heard about Maple Story, like, married couples on like online game. But I think we are more of the normal kind. I'm not sure about the other side.
Okay. So do you have a training schedule per se?
Yes, I actually try to train like 6 to 8 hours a day. It changes from time to time how I train, but at this point of time, the way I train more is like watching videos of my opponent. So that's takes up like 60 to 70% of my time right now.
Strategy.
Thinking about strategies and watching opponents' video rather than playing the game itself. Because sometimes the more you play, it doesn't mean you can get better because it's still the same thing. So we're venturing out different kind of options to get better right now. So it's about 6 to 8 hours of different kind of things.
Okay. So this training regime and schedule you do yourself?
Yes, I actually set it up myself and I fulfilled it myself. The only thing I couldn't really fulfill is going to the gym. I think it's a little bit difficult. I still do it once or twice a week. Yeah.
Why is it difficult?
Maybe as a gamer, for me, myself, I still think sometimes you feel like, you feel like it's tiring, after a gym. Maybe I don't have a proper coach, so it's not easy to keep the motivation up for exercising, but I'm trying my best to, keep this up.
It's the same for everybody.
Yes.
All right, Razor Xian, professional gamer. Thank you very much for coming in and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And I'm Eugene Low, and this is Nightlife on CNA 938. Coming up in the news, it's in about 3 minutes' time, Chinese President Xi Jinping arrives in Myanmar.